Hi everyone, I'm here today to do my September wrap up. I'm going to briefly talk about the mediocre books this month and then move on to my favorites. First, I read one graphic novel this month, and that was Giant Days Volume 2. It's a story about three college friends, all about friendship and coming of age story. I really enjoyed the first volume, but the second volume was a little bit meh for me. I loved the first section, but after that it kind of fell short, so I'm not sure if I'll continue on. I also read two contemporaries, one being Roman Crazy by Alice Clayton and Nina Bocci, and this is a romance story about a girl who goes to Rome to visit a friend after her own marriage fails, and she ends up re-meeting someone and falling in love. It's a great story about traveling and with a little bit of romance, lots of food and travel talk. Honestly, not my favorite of Alice Clayton's books. I did receive this as an ARC through NetGalley, and it's just a decent romance, but not amazing. I think Alice Clayton has written much better, funnier books than this one. The other contemporary I read was If I Stay by Gayle Forman, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think I like Gayle Forman's books. I've also read Just One Day, and my issue with her books is that she writes the most boring wallflower female characters. I felt like this character was the exact same as her female character in the other book. If I Stay basically is about a girl deciding whether or not she should live or die. It's incredibly short. I listened to it as an audiobook, which is only 4 hours. I would have DNF'd it, but by the time I decided to, I realized I only had an hour left, so I ended up just finishing it, but wouldn't recommend it. Not my type of story. I just didn't enjoy it. It was boring and just kind of meh. Next, I read a nonfiction self-help book called 168 Hours You Have More Time Than You Think. This is actually a reread. It's by Vanderkam, and it's all about time management. She basically goes through, evaluates how people spend their time, breaking it down by work, household chores, leisure, etc., and comes up with different suggestions how people can maximize their weeks. I just find it really interesting to look at how people prioritize their time. I got some good ideas rereading it. I listened to it as an audiobook, and it was just enjoyable, insightful. If you're thinking about picking it up, it's a good read for sure. Now, the other nonfiction book I read, I absolutely loved. I'd almost call it a memoir, and that is True Crime Addict by James Renner. And this is all about the mysterious disappearance of a college student who went missing in the 1990s. Essentially, she disappeared from her car, and it's a question of whether or not she committed suicide, was murdered, was kidnapped, ran away from her life. There's a lot of different theories. I love this book so much. This was pitched to me for being a book that's good to read if you like the Serial podcast. I love the book so much, I actually did a separate review. I'm trying to do more individual reviews, so they'll all be linked down below. And just such a good book. Even if you don't normally read true crime, this is a perfect book to read if you enjoy mystery, suspense. It was so addicting, and the fact that it was true just made it even more fascinating, but great story. And it kind of, like I said, is partially a story about this woman, but it's also a bit of a memoir because the author really delves into his own addictions with true crime. And he has a very addictive personality, which comes through in the book, and it's just fascinating. I love this book. Please go pick it up. I only read one mystery this month, and that was Daisy in Chains by Sharon Bolton. I previously read Little Black Lies by her, which I absolutely loved. Unfortunately, this one fell short for me. I did receive it as an ARC from NetGalley, but the book just fell flat. It was about a journalist who is investigating someone who was sent to prison for a murder, which he said he didn't do. The premise sounded really interesting, but I just didn't really care about the characters. Just wouldn't recommend it. I think there's a lot of other better books out there. So not the best for mystery and suspense this month. Moving on to science fiction, I read The Man of Cloud 9 by Dreece. I did receive this as an ARC from the author, but as always, my thoughts are always my own, and I really enjoyed this one. I would pitch this as science fiction for people who don't normally read science fiction, It almost felt more like a general fiction book to me. What it's about is a brilliant inventor named Nico who finds a way to manipulate nanobots in a really cool way, and it's all about his experiences setting up his company. It spans over 18 years, really looking at his life, and delves into relationships and business and ethics. A lot of really interesting material that's covered in this book. And the character is a little bit of Steve Jobs, but he's much more compassionate. Like I said, there's those aspects of relationships, and it's in some ways a very heartwarming story. I definitely think if you're interested in picking it up, it was a new release. It just came out on September 30th, and I was very lucky to get an early copy of it. It's definitely a fascinating book. I'll leave some links down below, but yeah, if you're interested, definitely go check it out. Finally, I read one fantasy book this month, which I absolutely love and highly recommend. That is The Wizard Killer by Dreece, the same author as the previous book I mentioned, but this one is totally different. I also did a separate review on this one, so I'll link that down below. But essentially, this is a serialized story, meaning that the author wrote one chapter a week over the course of, I believe, 20 weeks. And this is the combination of those chapters into a little novel or serial, and it's fantastic. It's so much fun. Basically, the story takes off with the main character waking up and finding a sword plunged into his stomach. The story is so fast and is a perfect binge read. I read it in one sitting basically and loved every minute of it. If you are looking at getting into fantasy but are overwhelmed by all those giant tomes, this is perfect because this is the opposite of that. It's an incredibly short, fast-paced story and is so much fun. You don't even have to be a fantasy fan to enjoy this one. It's just action-packed and is a great adventure. Someone blurbed it as Harry Potter meets Die Hard, and I definitely see the connection. It's a great story, perfect for reluctant readers, and I highly, highly recommend that one. I think it is such a good story and definitely needs more buzz around it. That is everything I read this month. If you have any questions about those books, feel free to leave them down below. I always love to chat in the comments section. Let me know what was the best book that you read this month, and maybe I'll pick it up in October. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you again soon. Okay, bye.